it's me, Catatonic, doing another video. This time we're gonna do a lead sound, and this is one of my favorite leads that I've made recently. I haven't had the opportunity to use it. I did make some random crap and put it on SoundCloud the other day, but it really does not show off how awesome this sound is. It's got a Hoover feel to it, and it's got some grit, and I really dig it. Here's the sound. It's a huge sound. I love it. So it's usual for me to make a sound, and I'm going to try to move as fast as I can with this, guys. Usually I'll make a sound and I'll separate each oscillator by grouping and then just duplicating within the instrument rack, and then processing each part of the sound individually, just so that I can process each sound individually, and so that the sounds won't sound like they're clashing and won't sound like they're fighting to maintain their space. Only a certain amount of sound can fit into a certain amount of space, obviously, and you don't want them to clash, or you don't want them to just overwhelm all the other sounds within your track. So let's get down to this sound. Let's break this down. So oscillator 1, we have speech setup, gentle speech setup, and it's detuned, not detuned. There's no detuning going on anywhere, except for the motion in the sound at the beginning of the song, at the beginning of the sound, but we'll get to that. So the pitch is down 12 semitones, and this is the low end, and that's literally just providing some backbone to the sound. And everything is being passed through a low-pass 4 filter, and there's an envelope on that low-pass filter, and that also provides some of the motion. We've got the attack at 50%, about 50%, and a macro set up to the attack of that envelope, just so that we can take away that sliding if we want to. You'll notice that it's the same envelope that's on the low-pass filter's cutoff, that's on the pitch of oscillator 2 and 3, just so we can completely take away the sliding if we choose to. And the filter's set up to parallel, which means it's just going through filter 2, as I explained in the other video, and then into the mixing section, and then into the main effects, which is dimensional expander and chorus ensemble, which we've chosen, and then into EQ. And that's the low end. Now for the mid. Right? That's the mid. And that's pulse wave modulation. That's the wavetable we've chosen. Dirty PWM. And like we just explained, envelope 1 is on the pitch of that oscillator. So it means that it's sliding up because it's at 0, and then the envelope forces it to slide up 12 semitones. So this is what it sounds like without the sliding. It's still shooting up to 12 semitones, but this is what it sounds like without the sliding. Right? That's why we've got that macro there. And this also has an LFO on the wavetable, and within that LFO we've chosen a square curve, and the rate is about 75%, and the amp is at about 49%, with a macro placed on it as well. It's macro 5. You can choose whatever macro you want, obviously, and that's just because I didn't want at that moment to have the full effect of the rate onto the sound. It sounds good with it, but I chose to have it so that you could choose if you want to have the full effect of that sound or if you don't. So I'm not going to play that right now. You can discover that later. And I'm not doing this sound just to give you a sound. I'm hoping that you'll take some information from this, and you'll take some sound design techniques from this as well. Anyone can give you water, obviously, but they can't force you to drink. Or was it fish? Or something, I don't know, unicorns and fish, I don't really give a shit. So, sorry about that. So this is what it sounds like without LFO6, right? And with LFO6. So, there you go. And the only difference between oscillator 3 and oscillator 2 is, well, obviously the positions of the knobs right here, obviously. And this is also a different wavetable. But what I mean is, it still has the envelope. It's still sliding up, but it doesn't have an LFO going on. And then it has the pitch going up 12 semitones. So this is what that sounds like. And that's a great sound. I love that sound. But we gave it some background with a mid and a low. So this is what it sounds like without the phasing, because we do have phasing going on. Oscillator 3 phasing. This is what it sounds like without the phasing. It just sounds massive, right? Massive, massive. It sounds massive with the phasing going on. And we put a macro right there so that I could choose how much phasing I wanted on the sound. I keep saying we. There's no we. I love you guys, but there is no we. Only me. So it's on mono rotate, and it's got 3 voices going on. Trigger, you can choose what you want to do. Obviously, you can choose. I don't know if you know this, but trigger is actually referring to modulation sources. When should they be triggered? When should they continue? And when should they be triggered? Should they be triggered after every single note, or should they, which is always, or should they be triggered only at the beginning of a note, and then they'll just continue to go along their path? Let's say, like performer, you could choose to click a note. Oh, sorry about that. Click a note, well, press a note, and then if the next note ties over that note, then the modulation source will just continue to go along its path. Or, like I said, with always, even if it ties over, it'll still start the modulation source all over again. I personally wanted legato triller, so the modulation source would just continue along its path, because in this case, if it was always, then you would have that sliding up motion every time you press the key, even if the notes tied over each other. Yep, so that is the sound, and that's the sound, and you gotta love it. I know I do. So here's something I did with that sound, that little thing that I did on SoundCloud before. This is something that sound is capable of. Oh, also, this right here, I'm going to be doing a video on talking basses. This right here is a talking bass. That's a talking bass.